I'm afraid that unless we address the issues surrounding the bungling of the last KCPE examinations and the results thereof, we should be prepared for a similar or even worse thing in the impending release of the Kcse results. I am afraid that unless these issues we are raising are addressed, we should expect worse when it comes to the Kcse results. I'm not being an alarmist, because I'm a very responsible Kenyan leader. But I can tell you, unless we address the issues that are coming up, the Cabinet Secretary for Education is a flower girl. The Kenya National Examination Council Board, the one being chaired by Professor Nyabundi, is toothless. Plus the CEO. There are cartels which are basically calling the shots in both the ministry and in NEC. And these cartels have to be stopped, because if they are not stopped, the future of our education system is going to be in great jeopardy, and that of our children. And why do I say so? Yesterday, the Cabinet Secretary for Education, alongside a rating of officers from his docket and that of the KNEC, were in Parliament. And after lengthy deliberations between Mr. Machogu and his team and the National Assembly's Committee on Education, a lot more questions emerged. In other words, instead of providing answers to the many questions that were lingering, he left a lot more questions. And first and foremost, and this has to be addressed, this issue has to be tackled head-on if we are, as a country, to be able to redeem ourselves in terms of management of examinations and the education sector generally. Mr. Machogu claimed or denied the fact that the contract for printing the KCPE exams was abruptly discontinued, and that in his submissions every other year they go for a new printer of these exams. Let me say this. First and foremost, Mr. Machogu lied to the public. I want him to confirm or deny that the British company or the British firm that has been printing these exams in the recent past has printed these exam papers for the last at least 4 years, if not 5. Secondly, I want him to deny the fact that this same British firm had actually been supplied with the examination questions for KCPE and was already in the process of preparing the printing of these exams, when very abruptly and out of the blues he was asked to stop and the exam questions retrieved from him and brought back to an Indian company, which, as you all know by now, had no capacity and still has no capacity to do the kind of security printing that examination entail. So the question is, what necessitated the withdrawal of this contract from the British firm at the very last minute? We are going to prove in the coming days, if not weeks, that the British firm had difficulties releasing these exams back to KNEC for obvious reasons, because of the security and confidentiality issues surrounding the printing of exam papers and other security documents. If he is saying that every other year they have had to do new procurement for a printer, then why was this British firm already in possession of the 2023 KCPE exam questions? Let him deny, and we shall prove him otherwise. Okay? The fact of the matter is that this decision was an afterthought, was a last-minute decision, when it was realized that the British firm was not willing to part with 10% or so commission to the Kenya Kwanza or UDA brokers. That's why a decision was made hastily to withdraw the contract from that British firm and hand it over to a user-friendly farm in Kenya. And they found that in a Muhindi-owned farm along Mombasa Road. This same Muhindi actually had financed the UDA campaigns. I'm saying this, if they have got contrary information, they should come forth. So the Muhindi, who was user-friendly, then did the printing. But they didn't actually print in Kenya. Because he had no capacity, he went to India to look for somebody who could do the printing in a hurry. And that's why the whole thing was bungled and the security of the exam papers are breached in a fundamental way. That is one. The second issue around these exams is that they are claiming, the cabinet secretary is claiming, that the issue was only with the transmission of the results. That the service provider who was brought on board to do the transmission of these exams by way of SMS had difficulties for whatever reason. First and foremost, can they come out clearly and tell Kenyans the identity of this service provider that was brought on board, that was hired to transmit the results, the exam results to the pupils, the candidates and their parents? What is the name of this firm? Because we shall be disclosing it in the coming days, if they can't disclose it themselves. And how was this firm procured? How was it procured? What was its history? What capacity does it have to do the work it was entrusted to do? Of transmitting the results on SMS platform at such an exorbitant cost of 25 shillings per SMS. Who was behind this firm, this service provider? I'm aware, indeed we are aware, that there was a tussle between the cabinet secretary and his PS on the choice of the firm to be enlisted to do this work of transmitting the results by way of SMS. There was a tussle between the CS and the PS. Each one of them had their preferred firms. Eventually, the CS was outmaneuvered. The CS lost out. So your guess is as good as mine. The CS lost out, and that was the beginning of the problem that we have seen in these examinations. So the question is, therefore, who is actually in charge of the education docket in this country? I'm afraid to say that Mr. Machogu is simply but a flower girl in the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education is being run by the PS and cartels. Mr. Machogu is simply but a bystander. He just comes out from the woodworks to issue statements, such as the ones he issued yesterday in Parliament. So it would appear that the cartels have taken over the Ministry of Education, which is a very, very sensitive and technical ministry. I have seen Machogu commissioning what he's calling forensic audit. And yet he is asking the Ministry of ICT to do the same thing. That's very audit. That is tantamount to the ministry or the government investigating itself. You can't call a so-called audit by ICT ministry as an independent forensic audit. It can't be independent. Same people. Same cartels. In fact, even the minister for ICT is equally a flower girl, you know. Yeah, I didn't want to go into that, but that's also a fact. In that ministry. The person running the ministry of ICT is the PS. And I can go on. You know, when I talk from a point of knowledge and information. Because I hold a very, very critical office in this country. And I've got a very, very important information at my disposal. Okay? So the flower girl in the Ministry of Education is asking a fellow flower girl in the Ministry of ICT to come and undertake a so-called forensic audit. It's a joke. It won't happen. It's basically a cover-up, in short. Okay? What must happen is that those people, those agencies that were written to by the party leader of ODM and the leader of Azimio, His Excellency Raila Odinga, must come together as a matter of speed and rescue the situation. Because the Right Honorable Raila Odinga wrote to a number of agencies, you know it, I'm sure. On the issue of the insecurity.
Before you move to the issue of insecurity, still on education, what do you make of the protests which have been seen countrywide in regard to the JSS teachers, their payment and even absorption?
You know, we've got a very big problem. We have got a very, very big problem. Firstly, in the conceptualization, and secondly, in the implementation of the CBC curriculum system or system. I have said this time and again that the primary schools as they are currently across the country have no capacity to house the JSS cohorts. They have no capacity. You can build classrooms here and there, but that's not enough. These pupils require laboratories and other facilities that are not available in primary schools. Okay? First of all, it was a mistake to have housed JSS in primary schools. There's still time. They should be moved to secondary schools. Secondly, there are no teachers in primary schools with the capacity to teach these JSS cohorts. They're not there. They are hiring teachers as interns on some contracts without any guarantee or assurance that those contracts will be renewed. And therefore, you have got two parallel systems running. Teachers who are on permanent and pensionable terms under TSC. Now, teachers who are on some nebulous contracts under TSC, working hand in hand, alongside one another. It is not possible. First of all, it causes demoralization. It affects the motivation. It affects the morale of the teachers who are supposed to teach the JSS cohorts. So it's not too late for the government to just accept that this thing is a flop. It has failed. And go back to the drawing board. Unfortunately, a whole generation of children have been interfered with in a big way. Their future, that is in terms of education.
Jan ngina na wuok South Yoma. Wang ni campaign mwadogo matek onge. Nikech governor timonwa maber. Wang ni onge governor mantiere very
Ukuodo wiya koso kokuodo, tiyo koso ti. Bas. Koro kaane ma osekuodo wiya. Obiro chung' to wuoyo ka wasegolo pesa to miyo wamokelo. Ber koso ra. Koro yikre uru. Anyone mano obiro ka. Mobiri arambe. Regardless of order, manigi pesa madwa miyowa.
Okay, sawa, thanks.
Ma e thuolo mwadwa golo pesa. Koro awacho to katieko.
Jothurwa, sani to uneno kaka piny dhi. Orenge madhi bet governor 10 years. Wang'ni kivukri, ichomo kumichomo tichak ibete koyo higni moko 5 mabiro. Omera koyo.
Wuoyi ma kidogo. Wuoyi ma slow. Nyako chie. Nice and lovely.
No kamano Agodi, Gavana Marwa,